uh,
Say what? What'd you say, Susan?
that Yvette's power was less than adequate, so she had to zoom off.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it all turns as everything's in divine right order, isn't it? So everyone that's here is supposed to be here, and we assume that those that are not here are off having fun somewhere else. So, all right. So I want to invite you into our fellowship this morning. This is Fellowship of Spirit from Farmington, New Mexico. It is the 18th of June, Father's Day, and this is we're just really excited about having you with us today. We have an exciting program today. We have uh, Margaret Cheesebro and Shay Johnson are going to be doing our music. Jerry is going to be doing our spiritual reading, and Ian Gloria from Belize will be giving us our main message. People are starting to drift into the sanctuary here, so we are continuing to grow in numbers, and everybody that comes in is bringing also quality with them. Hi Carol, we are glad that you're here, and how are you doing? Good, good. We're glad that you're here. Okay, let's start off by, well, we do know in our announcements, and I like to talk about this twice. Day after tomorrow, the 20th, next Tuesday, we're going to have a solstice celebration at the Kiwanis Park on 30th Street in Farmington. It'll start at 5 o'clock and will run somewhere approximately to 7 or so. And we'll have hamburgers and hot dogs. We will have
No hot dogs,
no hot dogs.
unless somebody brings
Oh,
them.
okay. Well, we're going to have hamburgers, and we will have potluck. Bring anything you'd like to have. So we don't know all that we'll have to eat, but we know that it'll be good,
They can call me if they have questions.
and that you can call Jerry Lard if you have any questions. But anyway, we'd like for you to be there if you can. All right, so we're now going to have our prelude. So the prelude is to try to ease our minds and our consciousness and get that more so that it'd be more receptive to our spiritual divine learning. So go ahead, Margaret. This is Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen.
Beautiful.
All right, thank you, Margaret. Okay,
I just want to hear somebody like Mahalia Jackson sing.
Susan, would you give us our opening prayer?
Yes, most definitely. Creator, Mother, Father, God, we give thanks for this glorious day. for the opportunity to come together, for the opportunity to walk with our Creator, to find those things that are making us stronger, better people, to bring us to a healthier, happier way of experiencing our lives. We give thanks for all of the people that we get to touch today, to bless them and to receive the blessings that they give to us. For all of the wonderful things that we have in our lives, we truly give thanks. Hope.
Thank you, Susan. So I mentioned before, today is Father's Day. We have one day of the year that's dedicated to Father, just like we had last month, we had Mother's Day. And so I want to recognize all the fathers in our audience and in our congregation, and thank you for your service to your family in the past and in the future. You know, it's fathers are very important, and the healthier the fathers are, the healthier the family. So, and that's what we're all about here, is to try to get those things out of our lives that are blocking us from divine guidance and divine spirit. And anyway, so thank you, and I hope that each and every one of you fathers have a wonderful day today, as you are recognized as and appreciated. Okay, I have a little thing. I asked for people's prayers. There's a little town in the panhandle of Texas called Perryton, and that town this past week suffered a tornado that just about did the whole town in. And that town was populated by a whole lot of my relatives. I had an uncle who, after World War II, moved there and bought a ranch, and they were a rancher, and they had raised their family there. They at one time, I think that the family owned the Chevrolet dealership. But anyway, so I have a lot of cousins, some of I've never even met, that lived in Perryton. I did talk to a first cousin of mine, because my uncle's gone, but and his wife are gone, but my first cousin still, she doesn't live there anymore, but I called her and she said that she had been up for 2 or 3 days talking to people, and she said we had one cousin that was in surgery at the time that I talked to her by chat, but she said everybody was okay, but the town was just absolutely leveled and devastated. So if you could keep them in your prayers, I would appreciate it on a personal basis. So thank you very much. Okay, so now we have another song. It's called The Wonderful Words of Life, and it's number 190 in the Brown Book. So Shay Johnson, Margaret Cheesebro.
Teach
Thank you, Margaret and Shay. Absolutely beautiful. We appreciate it. Let us repeat our reflective moment. It's in the brochure. Love produces a flow of energy that I now feel. I love others more than ever, and I feel privileged to be here. Love flows from one person to another as we create an atmosphere of holiness, and so it is. All right.
Jenny is normally this Sunday with the spiritual reading, and she asked me to cover her. And so I happen to like this book, The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. And so, inspiration and purpose. When you're inspired by a greater purpose, everything will begin to work for you. Inspiration comes from moving back in spirit and connecting to the 7 faces of intention. When you feel inspired, what appears to be risky becomes a path you feel compelled to follow. The risks are gone because you're following your bliss, which is the truth within you. This is really love working in harmony with your intention. Essentially, if you don't feel love, you don't feel the truth, and your truth is all wrapped up in your own connection to spirit. This is why inspiration is such an important part of the fulfillment of your intention to live a life on purpose. When he left the work that no longer inspired him, every single detail of what he'd worried about was almost magically taken care of. He spent many months working for a large corporation, was offered a salary 3 times higher, but it wasn't in spirit. That prodded inner knowing that do what you're here to do, and teaching counseling became his manifested daily purpose. You may think it's all too risky to give up a salary, a pension, job security, or familiar surroundings because of a dim nightlight in your mind that draws you to see what is turned on. I suggest that there are no risks at all if you pay attention to that light, which is your knowing. Combine your strong knowing with the faith that Spirit will provide, and you acknowledge to the power of intention at work. Sorry, my eyes are watering. Your trust in this inner knowledge is all you need. I call it faith. Not faith in the external God to provide you with a purpose, but faith in the call you are hearing from the center of your being. You are a divine, infinite creation, making the choice to be on purpose, to be connected to the power of intention. It all revolves around your being harmoniously connected to your source. Faith eliminates the risk when you choose to trust the inner knowing that your purpose and become a channel for the power of intention.
Oh.
And so we believe.
So,
Thank you.
thank you, Jerry. So that kind of boils down to leap before you look. You know, if you have faith, you don't have any problems doing that. So, okay. So now we have another song. When You Rule Your Mind, number 337.
And as you think
Thank you, ladies. I want to give a shout out to my children, who some of y'all didn't even know I have children, but I have 3 children. My son is Ron Jr., Candace, who lives in Denver, and my youngest, Jessica, who lives in a little town just north of St. Louis. They're all grown and have their own family. My son's almost 50 years old. So anyway, they were blessed to have 2 fathers. I was their biological father, and I was unhealthy at the time for a long time. And they had another guy that my ex-wife married, who I did not like, and I didn't think he would ever stick around. He's been there for over 30 years, and he was a positive force in their lives, and they love him. And I came to appreciate him and his stability. When I had none, he had some to offer them. As I got healthier, the better he looked. So anyway, they were just blessed and to have 2 fathers. And so there you go. A shout out to Lou Salinas, who was, we are co-fathers. So anyway, there we go. And today we have Ian Glory from Belize. It's going to talk to us about the opening and closing of the gates of heaven. So it sounds very intriguing to me. So let's welcome Ian Glory.
Actually, Ron,
Yes.
I'd like to give a little introduction to Ian. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Ian started doing shamanic work when he was 17. And so although it's Father's Day today, and we wish everyone a happy Father's Day, sometimes that means the mothers that have to take over fathers' positions in some families. But we're going to give a talk that's a little different today. We're kind of talk about what you're going to do on Tuesday, celebrating the solstice. So I'll kind of be injecting some questions on his talk. So like I said, we're going to do it just slightly different than what we've done before. So anyway, I'm going to turn this over to Ian to start.
We're not averse to different. We like different. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you, everyone. And again, to everybody, happy Father's Day. I must say that I do not share all the sentiments that Susan does. And although I do celebrate and I do appreciate the women that have been strong enough and had to play more than one role, I think that they already celebrated their day. And they should leave Father's Day to the forefathers. If you realize all the malls are filled on Mother's Day, but before Father's Day, the malls are empty. So we already, as fathers, don't get that much acknowledgement. And I don't think it's fair for the moms to come take it away the rest of the way as well. They have their day. So to me, to all the fathers, happy Father's Day, okay? And to all the mothers on your day, I'll celebrate them. So with that further, yes, we wanted to do something a little different. So we know that we all celebrate solstice. And I didn't want to come and explain to you how the solstice works and the line of the equator and the angle of projection and all of these things, and to mention things to you that you already know. You know, going again with the same story of summer solstice is the longest day, winter solstice is the longest night. All of these things we know already. So I wanted to give a different perspective, right? To begin with, January Koli is the word that is usually used stating heaven's gate. And the equinox and solstices that we know every 3 months have been named the doors of heaven and the seasons. In Christianity, the solstice celebrations that are carried about by celebrating the two Johns. In summer, we celebrate John the Baptist, and in winter, they celebrate John the Evangelist.
So why John?
Well, now let's be conscious of where John comes from. John is the Latin name for Juan. Now, don't confuse Latin and Spanish, okay? Two different languages, and Juan in Latin, okay, means door, okay? We must only refer and remember to that word Juan that comes from Juana, meaning door. The Milky Way, according to the system, passed through the door that seems to serve the solstice map. In other words, we look to the stars to guide ourselves for everything, for climate, for weather. And the angle and the position of the world at a particular time is the one that guides our map, our climate, our seasons. And at this particular time, it serves in a particular position, creating that anomaly, if you want to say, of the longest day or the longest night, right? That means a difference in distance. Juana Colli, like I said, Heaven's Gate, is the study of the two cardinal points of the air from the traditional perspective, in which time and space are not rigidly distinguished from the winter and summer solstice, and are not only points in time, but also the northern and southern entrances and exits to the world of matter. In other words, celebrating John the Baptist, it's the beginning of a season. John, Juan, Juana is opening of the door, okay? And when it comes to John Evangelist, it's the closing of Heaven's Gate. And all of this is guided by what I will explain in a little bit in the discussion of the Wheel of the Air. It has been explained that the different phases of the yearly cycle create a different condition within the heart of Maid. Now, what we talk of Maid, when we talk of Maid, we're talking of, and I will mention it again, God becoming the maid so that the maid may become God. And this refers to different points in biblical writing. If we look at the New Testament, in which they said God became the maid, we were talking about the one that brought this about is Mary, in which through her teachings and what was initially meant is that through the word of God, she understood what was humility and acceptance. So it comes basically to the teaching of do unto others what you want them to do up to you. So she became the maid. She became the servant. And only by becoming the servant, you shall be served. And this is the meaning between when we talk about the heart of the maid. You have to have a heart of service. We may explain this a little further by saying that the different phases of the air are in fact different places in both psychic and symbolic terms. Many traditional symbolic designs are indeed maps of the air, seen as a geometric territory. So the sun and the earth and everything is positioned in a particular angle so that we can view it in a different pattern. The simplest and most fundamental of these maps is the cross itself. Of course, the cross has many other meanings, but since the fourfold cross and the four seasons of the year are precisely analogs, the fifth season of Mara corresponding to the center of the cross, all the meanings of the cross are transferable of the year and vice versa. Indeed, we may say that it is possible fully to understand the one without the other. Let me explain this in simple words. You can picture a cross in front of you. The top point, it's like a cross pointing to the directions. So the top point is the north. This is the winter, the nativity, the beginning. The bottom point pointing to the south, which is summer. That's the Rosa Mundi, the fire, the origin. West is autumn, divine light, and east is spring, which is Easter water. So we already can see that the cross itself has other significance and where it begins. We then know that because the south is fire, and we celebrate new fire after winter solstice. That's when the fire begins and gets to its highest point in the summer solstice. That's building up to the opening of the gate of summer. The solstice make up the vertical axis and direct ray of divine light that descends from our mother God, okay? While the equinoxes make up the horizontal axis, a particular plane of manifest existence, usually our own, upon which the perfect form and archetypes transmitted by the divine ray combine into matter, of what plane to take or substantial form. It is for this reason that the winter and summer correspond to the subtle elements of air and fire, and spring and autumn to the gross elements of earth and water. So now we having the relationship between the cross, the winter, the seasons, and the elements that they all tie together. The two solstices at the highest and lowest points of the air are called Juana Coli, or Heaven's Gates, for they are the 2 points of entry and exit from the world cavern in which we exist. That is why both the Nativity or Rosa Mundi periods are noted for the manifestation of subtle entities into the world. That is why it is celebrated as such by Christianity. They do not sometimes mention we do not celebrate summer solstice. They celebrate John the Baptist, which John we know is Juan, which comes from Juana, which means door. So it's the door into this life of baptism. Now we realize that we live an existence of, what you call it? We live in a plane that is, nothing is real.
Oh, it's like a virtual reality.
We live in a virtual reality. But the true fact is, although that we are in a virtual reality, we still have to live by it. And the guidance cannot be only, as you said, in the materialistic things, but has to come from the spiritual understanding of what life's purpose is truly about. An old Hertalam rhyme that I will share with you goes this way.
Okay, I have a question before you talk about the rhyme.
Okay.
What is this you're talking about? Hertalam? What is that?
Well, it's old tradition, something that they hold in practice by other generations before us. It talks about more of a Gnostic belief than the
okay.
traditional belief, right?
Okay.
And it goes this way. The city, hateful 7 gates, a maid may travel through. But when those speaks of heaven gates, no, though there are but 2. The southernmost of heaven gates stands where red roses grow. The northernmost of heaven gates doth open in the snow. The southernmost of heaven's gate leads far beyond the sea. The northernmost of heaven gates leads high above the tree. Very short, very precise. You can see the meaning between summer, winter, interlacing everything.
And that Heaven's Gate had roses, which is why it would be called Rosamunde.
Rosamunde, exactly. That's where it came, because this is just before summer. We have spring where everything starts to blossom, and at the height of summer, then you would have all these red roses, right? That you would be referred to, and it talks too about beyond the sea, which refers to the daughter of paradise of Avala, which is said to be the far in the Western Ocean, while it also mentioned above the tree refers to the transcendence of the material world above the central world tree, the highest earthly part of the world axis, which refers to the dealing that we had touched before of the equator and the climate and the angle and all of this.
You were talking
Growing.
about Avila. Is that kind of like in our traditions and the story of King Arthur and Avalon?
Yes.
And how he was taken to Avalon?
Right. So yes, and that is which is the highest point in the world, the highest mountain, right? This was the sacred mountain of Avalon. So that's what it refers to. The winter and summer solstices as heaven gates are known respectively as the gates of Dia.
Dia
And the gate of
meaning
the
what?
maid.
Okay. Dia in English would be what?
Okay, so let me cover this one here and see if that can be cleared for you. And the corresponding exactly solstice mystery from the Nativity mystery is precisely concerned with the descent of Dia into the world cavern, while the Rosamundi mystery is concerned with the ascent of the maid, like a lark, directly towards and into perfect union with Dia, which is talking about the sacred one, again referring again this to the spiritual aspect of God. Right? The complementary between the two solstices correspond to the third and final declaration of the quintessential Viennese statement of faith, right? And this is again refers to what I said at the beginning, where it says God became the maid and the maid might come to God. In other words, I am the servant of the Lord. May it be done to me according to thy word. Humility and generosity in acceptance, learning what that is, learning that one will only be served if one has served. The higher and the bigger you are, more you should learn humility, more you should learn servitude, and more you have to give. And only by giving, you will have earned the privilege to receive.
You're also talking about the maid ascending like a lark to Dia heaven.
Yes.
So that's the union, the male and female of yin and yang.
Yes, and each culture would present it in a different manner. Again, we talk about remember that we mentioned the cross, and at the end of each cross is the season. And at the end of each season, it represents an element. So what happens when these meet in the center? It creates that fifth element, which is essence, which is the Almighty. It is the coming together of male and female, is the coming together of all elements to produce.
Okay, you talk about the fifth element, and of course I'm thinking of Bruce Willis and the fifth element, which is love. Isn't that what the fifth element is really all about, when you come together and union?
Yes, in a matter is, because everything that we talk about in history everything that is taught about in most of what you see. If you look at the Bible, and I'm sorry that we're diverting a little bit, and we look at the book of Psalms, and we look up at the Song of Psalms, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
It's all about love. It's all about sex. It's all about procreation. It's all about Songs of Solomon. So everything, in the other words, relates to that, to our position in living forever. When we were promised that we will have eternal life, it was not about one body or one person living forever and ever, but the continuity of that essence, of that spirit. And we do that through generation. So at the end of the day, it all relates to that, to serving and procreating, to living forever under this promise. And how we will live forever is by following the word of our Creator, in which we live to serve. The path of each of heaven's gates leads corresponds to the two halves of the year. As I said before, the ascendant half is which the sun's strength waxes towards the fullness of midsummer, and the descendant half in which her strength wanes towards midwinter. We may see then that the path which begins from the gate Dia leads through the sacrifice of Easter in spring, in which the soul must give herself to death, that is, the destruction of her ego, all that she calls herself as opposed to her true self, which is none other than the Spirit herself. For as a Philanic scripture says, the Spirit is one, and I am the Spirit, and thou art the Spirit also, in the innermost temple of thy heart. This is the origin, and here, through these teachings of the Heaven's Gate and solstice and everything, leads that we are all one and connected. This is the basic spirit in which most likely your book that you follow and your classes that you have every week is in what you call it, the Course in Miracles?
Course in Miracles.
This is the foundation where most likely Course in Miracles came, in which you say that if we save one, we save all. If we give love, then love is received by all, because we are all one eventually, because we are all connected to that one supreme.
And that's what we just finished reading also in our book class about Zero Limits,
Okay.
is to love the divine within ourselves, knowing that as ourselves, we are also everyone else.
Right. So then we talk about this and what I had said before, that the sacrifice truly is death. Death of a personality, death of the ego, death of oneself, of everything that retains the illusion of being other than Dia, other than God, perfection, being part of that same body. And it's only through death that the soul may pass through the heart of the Son into the immortality that lies beyond, into perfect union with God, into perfect union with Dia. And this follows the tradition that death is not an end, but a passageway, again, a door that opens into another life, into actually immortality. This is all interlaced in this same teaching. This then, in the northern way, passing through the sacrifice of the Easter into the consummate union of the Rosa Mundi that we had mentioned, the southern gate, which is the lesser beginnings from Rosa Mundi. This at first seems a little bit confusing, but it is to be understood that once one has come out of this world cavern through one of heaven's gates, we are no longer speaking of the earthly passage, but its heavenly equivalent. Therefore, the ascendant paths leads from earthly nativity to heavenly Rosamundi, while the descent paths lead from the earthly Rosamundi to the heavenly nativity. One leads to the other, opening and closing of the gates. Now we're talking about the heavenly path, and we're talking about moving in and out of our three-dimensional world. So this is a lot about higher spirituality. The descendant or northern path is for those who are not ready to accept the death of oneself, who lead a good and devoted life and yet remain within the world of change and becoming what one's personal expectations are, and is not ready to look and open one's life to do faith.
So we're just doing a lot of coming back again and again and again, over and
yes,
over.
because
until we
we're get it right, get it completed, complete our purpose.
So my question is, has anyone ever gotten it right?
I wish I would have that answer. This path leads not to absolute heaven of perfect union symbolized by the rose garden, but to the relative heaven from which the soul must return to her journey. This means that the apple orchard in the western paradise of Avala, it means that we are there and we come back to the origin of the orchard of, I don't want to use the word paradise because that is another confusing story. But we come back to the origins where we have to start all over again until we complete that mission that we are all set forth. So the southern path then leads to Avala, that we mentioned right now at the autumn equinox, which corresponds to the western direction. It does not end at heaven, okay? And again, it passes through the nativity, and we have to continue to do this in order that we may be able to move on. We may see then that the two paths, the path of return and the path of non-return, are inverse images of one another, again, leading very specifically to what we do. You can see the gate as an opening or as a closing, as an entryway or an exit way, referring to the line that you cross that states, so it be below, so it be above, or any of these versions that you know it as
above, so
as
below,
above, so below, because
right.
they're inverse images of one another. The ascendant path leads through an analogy of Our Lady's death to heaven. The descendant path leads to heaven to an analogy of Our Lady's birth. In other words, it's your perspective of how you see things. If this glass is half empty, or is this glass half full? One apparent paradox remains. It may at first appear contradictory to ascendant path of the sun waxing through, leading to the highest point of the cross to the lowest, while the descending path of the sun declines, leads from the lowest point to the highest. But this is due to the law of inverse analogy that we had just spoken. As with the reflection in the pool, whatever is in heaven is reflected upon earth in inversion. Thus, from the earthly point of view, the winter solstice corresponds to the northern point of the compass. But from the solar perspective, the winter solstice is precisely the moment at which the sun reaches its lowest point in its annual journey.
But from the other side, you said that everything is in reverse, and I'm thinking about how you were talking about the death and the rebirth and everything. From the other side, when we come into a physical body, they are mourning our loss, whereas our parents are rejoicing our birth. And yet, when we die here on this physical plane, everyone seems to be sad, and yet they are rejoicing on the other side.
Exactly, and that's why it says that our death is not to be mourned, but celebrated. It is normal for people to be sad because they will miss you. You will no longer be there. You will not no longer share that physical connection. But indeed, it's supposed to be a time of celebration. It is precisely the same inversion that what on earth is the gate of ascent is in heaven the point of descent.
Yeah.
And this is what you're talking about. While what on earth is the lower gate from the heavenly perspective, the sun door itself is the lower gate.
And yet it's the higher one.
Exactly.
Everything is in reverse.
Yes.
And yeah, it makes
So
sense.
from the earthly standpoint, however, the gate of Dia is the gate par excellence. The uttermost gate, in English, utter, is cognate with Sanskrit Uttara, which means not only the highest, but superior, last, but also northern. Thus, January, the Tellurian name for the month in which all but the first day of nativity falls, derives from Latin Janua, a gate or door. So Janua is actually gate or door, and that's the origin of the first month, January. So Janua Kali is gate of heaven. January is the gate of the beginning of the year. And this is where they did the similarity with our calendar.
It's interesting. I was just thinking of they always say, oh, January came from the god Janus, who has two faces
Yes.
in both directions.
Yes.
So
And each, if you do your research, the two faces are looking at two different points of view, which are basically the two gates
of heaven.
of heaven.
Whether is it opening or closing?
Right. So the Hertelian name of the equivalent month, Herti, may not at first appear to be connected with the notion of the gate, being concerned rather with the heart and equivalent of the Greek Hestia. However, the heart in the microcosm of the home is the direct relation of the sun and macrocosm of the world. Since the sun door of the southern gate is the uttermost gate in heaven, so by inverse analogy, the heart of the northern gate is the uttermost gate of earth, and the heart of earth is then the sun, which is representative of those gates. So there's another teaching that says the chimney, which literally is a hole in the roof in the microcosm, an image to access by which Dia breaks into the world. It is the reason that French chimney is related to chemin, which is way. So there's a lot more different things that we could discuss further. However, for traditional science teaches that all fire is yurting, in other words, coming to earth of the sun, yurting of the sun. And since through our fall have cut ourselves off from the supernal sun, who is our mother God, it is only through her coming to earth that the earth fires and the altar flame are lighted. Thus, in this tradition, the complex interrelation of both heaven gates is enacted. While we have explained, and I just give me one more minute, the doctrine of heaven gates, which are natural of the most importance and the voters of our mother God, the concept of the two solstices of heaven gates is found widely through many traditional cultures. sometimes in cases where influence or borrowing seems of the question. While profane scholars may find this difficult to explain, there's really no difficulty in understanding the matter. The fact of traditional true are perceived by pure intellect, just as the fact of material existence are perceived by physical senses. If two widely separated culture tells us that the sky is blue and the grass is green, we do not ask which one influenced the other. Once there's another saying that says, if the river songs, it's because it brings something. Similarly, as with so many traditions, motives that may be properly designated as archetypes, the reason different cultures see the solstices as Heaven's Gate is simply because the solstices are Heaven's Gate, are the opportunity, and it is when we become closer to our origin of existence and the point that we are at the farthest of that same point. It is all a dance, a relationship between Earth and the sun, and the reason for our existing, and understanding the symbolic and the spiritual connection between the same. Again, some cultures may use this to the benefit of their own interests. These points, being the closest and farthest from heaven, may be used for positive and negative spiritual aspects. However we want to take it, what cannot be denied is that these 2 points that we know and celebrate as solstices is the true beginning and end of our calendar. These are the ones that guide all our movements on Earth while we exist in this plane. And I will leave it at that because there's a lot more to discuss, and it's a long discussion that we could take 2 or 3 sessions of these. I don't want to bore you all. If you have any questions, I will deal with them now.
Thank you,
If
Ian.
you're not asleep.
So it appears to me that you're all about saying that rather than there being a linear progression from a beginning to an end, that all of existence is a cycle that is continuous, and there are high points and low points.
Ascending and descending, yeah.
You know, especially in our relationship to the sun, and that is probably a microcosm of how things are in the universe. Is that correct?
Yes, and this is how previous, I don't want to use generation, but previous people used to look at it. And that's the way they dealt with it, so that they could actually be in close connection and be able to move within one another.
Right. And this would be either a thinning veil or a thickening veil between the worlds. Is that part of it?
That is right.
All
Yes.
right. That's great. All right. Does anyone have anything that they would like to share with Ian, or ask him about, or comment about his presentation?
I don't think you covered it.
Well, Ian, we really appreciate you and your helper, Susan, to come to us today and to remind us about our relationship to the universe, and because we get so busy in our everyday existence that we can get stuck in the densities. We can get stuck in this world and not recognize or remember that we are in a small cycle that is there's a much bigger cycle that goes, and that our relationship doesn't change. That we are, but we could, our consciousness, we could forget. And so we really appreciate when you bring it to us and show us these things, and remind us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And in a positive way,
Absolutely.
we are moving toward the highest point of the sun. After summer solstice, we are descending. That means that our temperatures too shall be descending. We're hoping.
Well, we have had a very, very temperature-wise, a very pleasant June in San Juan County. It's staying between 75 and 80, and we have a little shower in the afternoon, and and it's just, this has been one of the more temperature-wise, most pleasant springs that we've had. We have had times in June when it was already 90s, for a long time. So it's been very, very pleasant for us here. I don't know how it's been in Belize. I know that it's
Hotter than hot.
really hot. So all the heat went to you, and
Yes.
Yes, it
we're
In
just
the
having,
90s and in the early hundreds.
we're having a moderate time, but I guess all the heat just went to you guys. So, but anyway, we thank you, and thank you for coming and sharing with us today. Let's give them a big hand. All right. All right. We have a few people that we know are having difficulty in our congregation. One of them is Scott Bugnell. You probably noticed that he's not here today. He has gotten sick, and he's going to be what? I'm just sharing that we would like to keep Scott in our prayers that he recovers from his current situation. That's all I'm going to share. No, you didn't. You probably should have a little faith and trust that I'm not going to say something that's inappropriate. Okay? But we need to keep. Also, our brother Steve today is not with us today because he is in an air balloon over. So you might need to keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Also, he may be in a precarious situation also, but he's doing it voluntarily, and he's having fun today. They're having a balloon fest. Oh, no, it's over in Bloomfield. In Bloomfield, he may be flying over us. We don't know. We don't know where Steve is, but he is at a higher place than we are, because he got in a Scottish balloon, but he did it, and he's having fun at it. So that's good. And I don't know of anyone else. Does anyone else know someone in our congregation that's having a difficult time right now? Okay, we always want to keep those people in our trouble. We are all subject to having difficulties and victories and in our lives, and collectively we're here mostly to support one another during those times and to help us to celebrate our victories, and also to help each other through the difficult times. We know that we are not alone, and that's the trap of being in these single bodies, is that we think that we're alone when we are never alone. So anyway, keep that in your mind. Keep our congregation in your hearts. Okay, so we now have another song by Margaret and Shay. It's called Confident Living. It's number 159 in the Brown Book.
Confident living,
A. Johnson and Margaret Cheesebro bringing our music to us today. Thank you very, very much. Okay, now we're going to have our celebration of abundance. So let me get the button off of my billfold. So let us put over our hearts that which we intend to contribute. Say after me, divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I receive, and all that I give through infinity. Or words to that effect. Thank you. Okay. How many in the congregation plan to come to our solstice celebration? Raise your hand. Are you coming, Carol? No? Well, it's Tuesday, day after tomorrow, solstice celebration, Kiwanis Park, 5 o'clock in the evening. We will have a meal, we will have music by Fred, and we will have general fellowship and a lot of fun and frivolity going on. So don't come if you don't want to have frivolity. Frivolity is important. Anyway, okay, so, all right. Bill is going to bring us our closing words. Bill Clark.
Good morning, everyone. The title of the section I've read today is Feeling Grumpy. We have no more right to put our discord state of mind into the lives around us than to rob them of the sunshine and brightness that we have to enter their houses and steal their silverware. Basically what it's saying is if you feel grumpy, keep it to yourself, don't share it everywhere else. We have a bad day, and boy, do we feel grumpy. At home with our friends, we take out on those around us, so they're having a rough day. That's not fair to them. It's fine to let people know that we're feeling off, sad, or frustrated. It's not right to destroy their day just because ours isn't going right. We must use self-control to deal appropriately with our emotions. We can learn to laugh at our circumstances and at ourselves. And with that attitude, we can transform a bad day into a good day for us and for the ones we love. I have bad moments sometimes. That's normal. I will be careful not to bring everyone else down. Please help me in this motion. Y'all have a great week. Bless you. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Good words, good words. Okay, so and that's what we were talking about was we're going to have a solstice celebration day after tomorrow on Tuesday, 5 o'clock in the evening, Kiwanis Park. Please come, bring whatever you would like to eat or drink, and everything else will be provided. Is there anything else that we need to talk about, Jerry? No, you just, keep in mind that we always have Course in Miracles on Wednesday night at 6:30, led by Susan Barnes, and that on Thursday, Margaret Cheesebro and Power of Eight is sending out messages of light and love and prayers for anyone that comes onto our radar. So join them Saturday morning. And now we're going to be starting a new book next time. Is that right? And we're going to be doing a Deepak Chopra book. And the title is, just a minute.
The spontaneous fulfillment of desire.
The spontaneous fulfillment of desires. So Deepak Chopra, we're beginning that next week. You can access us through Zoom or come in person, either one. But we will start around 8:45, and so 8:45 to 10. So come and share with us and read this inspiring book. Okay, so we're gonna gather up and sing our way out of here. How about that? Whoops. Oh, no.
Oh.
What does it look like? Look okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
You
I
might
don't know,
wanna-
you've got something on it.
I'm quiet.
Land that I love, stand beside her and guide her.
Through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. Weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together in unity and yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as our Father, family all are we. So let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes, peace begins with me. Yes, this is the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. And may God bless you and keep you until we meet again.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he pulls his end up as high as mine goes, but you have to come off the toes.
I know. I never even paid attention.
I didn't realize I was doing that.
I'm so used to Curtis, I guess.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, your son.
Yeah,
Grandson,
grandson.
that's right. He's a tall kid.
So Carol,
Yes.
the hummingbird, does that mean joy to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
My grandson's name is Mitra, which means hummingbird.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, her son,
In
Akama.
Yakima, okay.
That's her son.
Did you get that at Riverfest?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump
My
in, but I
kids
was
did.
afraid to.
No, I wasn't. No, I just think that no matter the situation, if we have someone that is in a difficult situation, we need to pray for them. We don't have to be specific about what it's about.
I know.
I know.
Just in case.
No, I wasn't going. I wasn't gonna.
Okay,
And my
thank you.
husband in the hospital.
Yes. Sociological workers.
He's on hospice now. Hospice care. He caught pneumonia, yeah, so.
Come back and see us next week. Bye bye.